I think the problem is that most of the time people are in a compulsive state, which means that they react to you. But, compulsive.
Okay.
We meet somebody, we just act out of social behaviors and hi, how are you? There's not really an interest, there's not really a pause to actually feel the other person, because I think we are too intellectual. We kind of obscure one possibility that we have, which is more intuitive. So when you meet somebody, you can be more empathic and you can be more with the person rather than, to kind of different entities relating each other. And what you said about maybe I'm having maybe less interaction with people due to this path that I'm following, the internal practices. But the few connections that I established, they are more meaningful. Mm-hmm. It's because I believe there is more space within the two people. So the connection becomes deeper. It's not just a superficial social interaction. You actually, although you say we might be total different people, but maybe the ability of listening is there, which means that you are able to create a deeper connection with the person and actually be more empathic and get to know. You know this because of your job also, right? Mm-hmm. Your job is about dealing with people and listening to issues and everything like this. So going back to what you were saying, in one sense, you become more open to life. Although you might realize that a certain way of operating is not that effective, that's the reason why we decide to work on ourselves. Because first of all, we see our faults, we see that we want to improve, and we do the work, which is a painful work actually. The work that we do of personal growth, of practicing, is not pleasurable sometimes, Nobody pays you, nobody really understands you most of the time. They think you are an alien on the planet because your priorities are not making money and whatever, enjoying and drinking and all this kind of stuff. You're trying to find something more, you're trying to develop. And you might see that most of the people actually, they go randomly in life. So it's normal that you see, if you are, I think, honest and true and free in your interaction, even people will feel it. And sometimes they will even open up because they realize they are not the same in front of the same person acting, hi, how are you, and all the casual stuff. There is somebody there who is actually more alive, more present. And this, in my opinion, gives more possibility to a meaningful interaction, a meaningful life. Because otherwise, we are running, well, we don't know why. Here, we are making families and kids and mortgages, but we don't know. We don't know why we're doing that. We're just doing it because everybody does it. Mm-hmm. So it's normal for me that a free person needs to distance a little bit himself or herself from life and from people, little bit, even just a little bit, like you say, I do my practice, so I take the time for myself. When then life requires my attention, you go and then you perform life even in a better way because you are more centered and less confused. So the purpose becomes always finding clarity. And to find clarity means that you cut your identification with the movement of perception, of thinking and of perception. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So it's like you're acting like nobody is really around you, although you are surrounded by people. Right. And so your action in that case could be total free because it's not bound to personal interest, to goals, attainment of goals or attainment something from somebody. You're just you. Like you're dying in a couple of minutes. Yes. And that is for me freedom. Mm-hmm. As simple as that. And that is probably the foundation for me from where life exploration really begins. Because if there is no clarity, we want to go into mysticism, we will go into all the rubbish available of spiritual stories, and we divide ourselves from life, as you said. Them and me. I don't care about them. It's about me. And I know I'm doing the right thing. But the discussion we were having before about seeing somebody who's kind of acting in the same way as you were doing 2 years before can give you the perspective actually that life is a big thing, it's not just about me. And the more you open up to any kind of situation, think that resonate with you, things that resonate with you, the more you live. Because closing yourself from others, it's actually quite sad. It brings lots of sadness. What I understood is that you can be free, of course, less problems. But for me, it's in interaction with others that you find, let's call it God, call it whatever you want to call it, that connection is actually for me the worth. What really gives joy and food for the soul. Because on your own, you can be on your own. It's good. You can experience certain things, but eventually, life is made of many things. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
It does. I mean, yes, we're in a way social creatures at the end. So in a way, it's also, and I notice it. I notice that I'm fine on my own, but when I have meaningful interactions, like you say, it's something more. It's something more.
It charges you up.
Yes.
You don't feel lonely. You feel charged. You feel inspired. You feel that belong. Because eventually we want to, I think in a very childish way, at the beginning we want to be loved by somebody, whether it is a partner, a girlfriend, whatever it is, no? And for us it is a possibility of being accepted to heal our wounds that we all have, because if we are here, we have been traumatized by life since childhood, parents and society. So when we start to have that feeling of even one more person actually that allows us to be totally fragile and totally open, it's a tremendous relief in one sense, right? Because we feel loved. But this is what a normal person does, right? It finds for that love in that interaction. Later on we realize that even that interaction is going to last for a little bit and then it's going to go. Or it's going to upset us. And then we have the first slap in the face from life. And if we are, let's say, more spiritually inclined people, we will try to find something which can end that thirst for being loved in one sense. And I think, in my experience, that happens only through expansion. And expansion, to expand, it means that you have to become less, in my experience. Less judgmental, less thinking, because it's the only way that I can welcome more things in my life. Because if there is too much thinking, even now I cannot relate to you, I feel separated. But if I'm open and I accept everything, I'm living. I have more chance to be connected to others and to remove my boundaries. That cage that you feel when you are separated because you're a spiritual guy and the world is not spiritual. Mm-hmm. And at some point, even the definition of spirituality needs to go away. Because at the beginning, spirituality for most of us is an escape or an attempt of a solution for a lack of belonging to this. Because we don't like it. Because maybe we are people, we are person who have good values, honesty, and all these good things. And we go to work and we see the opposite. We go to the supermarket, we see the opposite. So it's quite rough out there. It's difficult sometimes to maintain that spontaneity and that freshness when at the same time you have to be careful for everything that happens around you. Mm-hmm. So
does it mean that we have to, in a way, I mean, rather than going away from the world and having our spiritual moment, rather come back to the world, but bring, I mean, this awareness into the human experience?
I think so, 100%. I think that the training and taking the time off by closing ourselves in a room and practicing, it's just the training that you do, like when you go to the gym and you make some muscles, but then the muscles are there. If you need to give a punch, the muscles are ready. So in the same way, with the training, you strengthen yourself in terms of centering. You say that I feel less fearful thanks to the practice. I feel more centered, able to say something unpleasant to a person who actually is my boss, right? And this is because on a deeper level, I think it happens. I don't know, you can confirm it to me, according to your experience. It happens because somehow with the practice, there are moments when we actually not engage in thinking. We are more in observing mode, no?
Yes.
We are executing an instructions, trying not to mess it up, right? and we develop another operating system which is not based on action but more in observation, passive observation. No? Do you agree on this?
I agree, and also the fact also about what you mentioned, that if you are very intellectual and you're thinking all the time, there is no room for anything else. And by doing the practice, you slowly allow to have more room, and when there is more room, it's like you remove your blinders in a bit and you start seeing things that you weren't seeing before or in the experience.
Yeah, because when there is more room, there is more intuition and more connection to yourself. So you are able to find the right answer. Sometimes out of the blue, you have a solution of your problem, just it comes while you practice or while you are quiet. So you are more able to be in tune with yourself. That's why being around people can be a demanding thing to do, because you might mess up with your quietness, so to speak. No? And the possibility of training ourselves in that kind of discipline at the end of the day, right? Through the discipline, we are able to stay more centered. When we strengthen that aspect of ourselves, we can bring that into life, which means that we make less mistakes because we are more aware. Try to think about a person who is totally confused, emotional, and you try to have an argument, discussion with this person. The buttons are very easy to push, and the person might change the behavior towards yourself very quickly. But especially it happens because we give value to things, right? Or we have a discussion, you think something is really important, but on a bigger perspective, nothing is really important. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just because you think you are at the center of the world, but you're not. Right. So this is something good that happens with the practice, that at the beginning it might be misunderstood as coldness, being distant. Many people, as you say, might tell you, you're not going out anymore. You prefer to stay on your own. It's beautiful, because if you can be satisfied with yourself, it means that, you're free. You don't need anybody to create happiness or joy or pleasant emotions within yourself. You don't need an extra external thing. You are able to be fine on your own.
Yes, there's always this want, the constant want. I need to go out, I need to do this. And you kind of become a slave of all these things,
Because nobody has taught us actually how we work. People will think that to be happy, they need to have the latest phone, they need to go to travel and go for the vacation. But because they live in a cage. If you think that, sorry about this, but if you think that I don't know how people live in this way, I couldn't. If you, 5 days per week you work and you have only 2 hours free in your day, right? Shower, toilet, and all the rest of it, very limited time. So the attempt of being happy is by acquiring something, having more at the end. At the end, you try to be more, but in a very materialistic and grumpy, inefficient way. Because you know that you're gonna buy a phone, you're gonna be happy for 1 day, 1 day and a half if it is a good one. No, and then life is gonna go miserable again.
The car will be 1 month.
The car will be 1 month, but then you're fearful when you park it because people might scratch it, people might ruin your investment. You have worked 10 years to buy the damn car, and all the rest of it. So I think that the more wise people who understand actually the mechanism by hitting the wall over and over, they will try to come for a solution. And usually that solution is called spirituality. Because spirituality at the end of the day means exploring something that is not ordinary in our attention, no? When in reality should be life, should be part of us all the time.
I think it's also about the thing that in our society it's always external. It's always you have to go buy the car.
This is what I'm saying.
You don't look. Then you have also to.
The thing, Julian, you brought something interesting in my mind, which is if there is no desire, there's no. You're not upset. If I have no desire, I'm sitting here. I'm fine. So it is actually the movement of my mind that is creating a problem for me. So it's myself creating a problem for myself. Do you see?
Yeah.
That's why I say that in my case, for instance, I was, let's say, lucky that when I did the basic programs of qigong, at some point I felt that my spiritual search was over. What does it mean? I didn't feel the need of questioning anyone. If there are no questions, well, there are no answers. It's fine. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Which, in very brutal terms, if you can relax more and be open to whatever it is, you're fine. So when we talk about enlightenment, in one sense we are talking about the fact that we are all enlightened already. And there is enlightened ignorance out there at the same time, which is part of us. Because fundamentally, this possibility of observation of freedom is there all the time, which means we are all at that level. It means how much you got messed up with your perception, identity, job, and life demanding. The percentage of how much you get screwed with that, it determines how much you are confused. You see? Because at the end of the day, I know life sometimes throws us terrible things, very unpleasant things. Somebody dies, we are sick, but it's temporary. And unfortunately, when we are in the sad moment, we are not able to recognize that I haven't been like this all the time. This is a temporary thing. But in that moment, we think it's going to stay like that all our life.
You were referring to non-resistance of what happens, no?
No resistance of what happens. The Buddha was used to say, suffering is caused by resistance to life. And of course, it's caused by the fact that we are identified with this body-mind. If I think that this is everything that I am, I'm going to try to protect it, I'm going to be scared, But if through our practices we touch something a bit more than that, then even the fears, they start to go away. Even the fear of death would go away. Experientially, you know there's something else, so it will go away. I don't know, in the actual moment, maybe you might be shaking a little bit, but within yourself you have realized something that is there. I think in that moment it's going to stay. Because it's not part of the body and the mind. It's as simple as, I'm here, I'm perceiving life, so I'm alive. And that thing is beyond my mind. My mind has changed since I was young, but I'm still here perceiving my mind. I'm still here perceiving my body that is changing. But something has been there all my life. What it is? The fact that I'm able to perceive life. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the body has changed, the mind has changed, but something has not changed, which is the ability of perceiving. Doesn't have any age, that ability of perceiving doesn't have any sex, any location in space. When something like that starts to happen, even the separation with the world starts to vanish naturally. And we don't have to go into that intellectually, because intellectually we will never understand it. We will never understand it.
Was this change gradual for you, or after was this change gradual for you, or after a particular meditation or practice suddenly?
No, but in reality, the possibility is there all the time, because as we said, it's just that we got messed up with the content of our perceptions, right? What's going through the senses and our interpretation, the mind movements, we just got messed up with it, right? But the possibility is there all the time, which means that the possibility of grasping this way of functioning, of listening, whatever it is there. It's just that our tendencies, they will take us for a little bit. So the thing is that when you taste experientially the flow of life, let's call it like this, then you want to have that, because you realize it's the most beautiful and open thing, the most beautiful thing you can have. So that stage is like it wants to call you home. So you tend to maybe to at the beginning just stay quiet in the middle of the crowd, or maybe isolate a little bit yourself, because you want to go into that more and more. So it is instantaneous, it is gradual at the same time due to the tendencies. The tendencies are the movement happening within this unit. Okay, we think that we are the last step of the ladder in one sense. What I am trying to say is this: because we see we are separated and everything, we think, okay, here there is separation. But if we look at the body, for instance, the molecule and everything, bacteria, they are separated each other, right? But they belong to a bigger organism, which if you get sick the whole thing, even the little molecule and everything, when you die, everything fall apart, right? So it's a big thing. But because we are at this level, we think we are separated. And we think there are my thoughts, your thoughts, I'm thinking my thoughts, you're thinking your thoughts, when in reality there is just perception taking place. So thoughts are coming up, and something is aware of them. Do you see what I'm trying to go? But if we go on the level above, maybe out of this planet there is a big being that we don't know what it is. We are actually in the ass of the being, maybe, right? And maybe we are kind of dreaming that we are doing something in life, but somehow life is happening on its own, and we're just aware of things. A totally different perspective than a normal human being, which thinks that he is alone in life, he needs to struggle, he needs to compete, he needs to make an effort, and he needs to do this, he needs to achieve, and then he looks at him and he says, oh yes, more, I want to have more like him. So it starts the old sickness that we know, that it is basically reflected in society.
We can be like an appendix of something, like you say, this higher being, we just maybe an appendix of it. And we have, because then...
It's just a manifestation of it.
It's just a manifestation of it. But we are not this separate thing that is alone and that we join society, you're all...
No, that's why I'm telling you, within your exploration, you can experience something much more of everything you can find outside. Outside will never satisfy for a long term.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going a bit lower in the layers. But the mind doesn't understand that. Because when you get there, the mind says, so what? Nothing happening here. I'm quite bored. So I'm reading all these spiritual books for 20 years, and now it's just about being natural and being aware. What is that? I want to see a Buddha appearing, I want to see golden rainbows, I want to have mystical experiences.
The secret is that there is no secret.
No, but the thing
kind of thing. I mean, I'm not saying about it, but it's kind of, the mind is expecting, like something, but then it's not about something appearing, like it's maybe just about being aware, but having this awareness which has developed over the whole process, which allows us to, so basically we change also our perception in a way of things.
Yes. But experientially.
Experientially, yes.
You see?
Not,
because now you're going into it. And what you will find, probably, you might discover other things, even related to life. But you will discover for your own.
Mm-hmm.
It will not be based on reading the experiences of some enlightened beings who are saying what this thing is about and there's no separation. It's not about that. You will find out yourself if such a thing is experientiable, first of all. You can go yourself. And it will change, of course, the perception of yourself in space. Because if you think that when we are totally confused, identified with ourselves, most of the energy goes dissipated in our thinking, in our interpretation of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the time. When this kind of process is not happening anymore, or is almost not there, you are able to perceive more. It's like if I'm focusing just on myself, I'm just looking there. But if I'm not focusing on myself, I can perceive from all the sides. You know, my attention, the attention is the most precious thing that we have. It's the only thing that we have one. It's one. Attention is only one thing. Yeah? You can, you know, if you divide it, it's always one. It's going in different direction. So if we don't have that constant identification with the flow of thinking and with the flow of perceiving, we experience more life. And things such as being aware of somebody looking at you from the back while you're not watching, or such a level of empathy where you feel what's happening within the other person, or some kind of forecasting intuition that comes out of nowhere. You don't even give importance to these things because they belong to the temporary field. Come and they go. So if you're wise enough, you don't take credit for it. Say, just happened. You know, just happened that I had this inside. So eventually means you perceive life more. You can express more. Because if I think about myself back in the days, I was holding myself back on many things due to my criticizing myself a lot, being demanding about what I was doing. But imagine if those things starts to vanish. What's going to happen? John, Julian, or Leandro, they will start to operate in life more freely, with less concern about what they can do, what they cannot do, what they can achieve, what they cannot achieve. They will just be like a plant, going wherever it can.
And all this energy that is consumed also by all this.
Wherever it can, it means also you might change a lot, or you might not. It depends, everybody's different. Because if you have a fixed idea about yourself, you will not be changing. Stuck in the same thing, doing the same thing, or watching at things in the same way all over again. But if you leave yourself as a white canvas, of course you're going to have some direction, because as Rando says, there is a demanding part in life, requires attention. But you will leave yourself free in terms of possibility of, let's see where it goes. Same thing with the energy practice. If you think that certain thing works in a certain way because you read it, you will try to force a certain outcome, which is unnatural, and you will never discover actually where the exercise will take you. Because if you don't know anything, you are open for discovery. If you know everything, no discovery possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple, it's so difficult at the same time. Because we live surrounded by families, friends, bosses, and everybody is trying to tell you what to do and not to do. Everybody is trying to transact with you rather than leaving you free. So we ended up sad and frustrated.
It reminds me of something when I'm doing the practice, very often the mind sometimes races, so having
Of course.
emotion and thoughts. And comes a moment during the practice, where actually just realize just the focus, just the moment of being there, and not the mind quietens. There is no judgment, no emotion, like no expectation. And at some point something not happens, but it's just the fact of no expectation, and in that moment it's kind of when something happens, But when the mind is racing, when the mind is thinking, or...
But in reality, Julian, when we are confused, it's because we are alpha-aware. What I want to say is that if I really put attention on a thought that has appeared in my life, my perception, if I give 100% attention to it without engaging with it, so just watching it without engaging with it will dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
Because it cannot stand the power of your breathful attention. Cannot stand. You should try yourself. You shouldn't believe me. If it's because we are half here and half there that we are confused. But if you are 100% on it, what it is true will stay. It's like if I talk to you and I get a little bit distracted. If I watch the movement inside me naturally is going to calm down before taking action. It's because we take action like this, halfway, that we are messed up. Because we don't give proper attention to things. We don't even know what we're doing. Sometimes, why we are reacting in a certain way, we don't even know that. As you said, you meet somebody who is reflecting your behavior that you had 4 years ago, 2 years ago, and then you notice it. You say, look, there's no space inside that person. That person is contracted, is there, is solid. In fact, when people are a bit more mature, they are even lighter in terms of perception. When somebody is very dense, you feel that there is a density, there is an heaviness carried in that person. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I see it with my patients.
And this is what I was thinking.
This density, some of them were very distressed, and you feel this, what you mentioned, sometimes like the intuition that I have, but then in the thoughts, yes, and I think when they get better is actually when this kind of heavy energy dissolves. It's kind of.
But let's try to understand what the heavy energy is about. It's just focusing on a particular problem, isn't it? Attaching, being totally identified, and having all the fears attached to it, and making that thing a huge thing.
Yes, and that thing that they.
And one thing I want to say, sorry if I interrupt you, another person going through the same problem, because it doesn't magnify the problem like the other one, it's just surfing the waves. The other person, a little thing, is making a huge thing.
A lot of people, they come to me, for example, and they, for something, that doesn't look like something...
like a problem.
Like a problem to other people.
Yeah.
But for them, because...
It's a big thing.
And it's the attitude they have towards the problem, and this attachment that they actually... But you think maybe, like any other person wouldn't have this problem, but... And they feel guilty about it, because they say it's such a small problem, but still I suffer from so much from it.
Right.
And when they understand, that they have what causes their attachment, and they explore, and they kind of let it go in a way, that's when they kind of free themselves from. But I think we do it also unconsciously. We all have things that we attach to, and that somehow we have to learn to just let go, I believe.
I think that as long as there is a person, identity problems are there. So only inquiring in the way that we kind of tried together with the Wheel of Life and trying to understand actually, which is just an explanation, okay? There are many, for sure, I believe. But useful, something that you can really reflect upon. If there is that sense of a person, possibility of screwing it up, it's quite big all the time, I believe. You get offended, you get defensive, you get angry, you get... In fact, in the Buddhism and the one I was following before, one of the antidote to this kind of problem was to seeing, gain and lose the same kind of, treated them equally, equanimity, treating fame and bad reputation in the same way, earning and losing in the same way. And in this way you kind of establish a more, because they are temporary stuff, okay? And they go up and down. In this way there is a kind of psychological training towards a more balanced state. But in my opinion, psychological investigation always will lead to problem. In fact, I know your job a little bit. I don't know actually the dynamics and everything, but I think that somebody could go to a therapist all their life. If you try to solve the dramas, maybe in your case you're trying to replace memories, so it's more effective and everything. but people trying to understand the nature of their traumas. You just bringing the bag all the time with you. You never left the bag home and you went walking on your own.
I don't look at the why, because the why can be, we will
You
never
don't
find
look
for
at the
sure
why.
what is the why. So it's more about the how you are right now and how you want to feel.
Okay.
Because why you can be you can be there forever.
Yeah, you can be there forever.
But the person and and the other thing is that more and more what I realize is not just staying in the psychology, but also I work with the body as well, because we cannot only see, the problem is like a doctor, if you go to see the doctor, he's a specialist, it hurts here, but it's connected to many other things, but he only looks here at the problem. So I don't think you can find really a solution if you don't have something more holistic.
And I think another problem is that we rarely look honestly to ourselves. We cheat ourselves. We tell a story. We don't want to look into the things that actually are happening because it's painful. Or seeing how small your mind is, because you go upset for a particular thing and actually it's a very small thing. It's painful. Most people will not pay attention to this. But that is the only way. It's like when you practice qigong at the beginning, you realize you don't know how to use your body at all. You want to do a movement, but the movement is not happening because you were not aware of it. So in my experience, after having tried the different kind of approaches, the most practical one was the one that I really needed. Because if I become more aware of myself, less questions will come. And I will refine my attention more in a way that I can see more, because I'm trained to pay attention to the subtle. Whether it is a sensation or something, I'm trained to stay in an observing state and notice the subtleties without engage with them, which means I have sharpened, in my opinion, my ability of watching things as they are. And of course it reflects in other aspects of your life, because at the end of the day, if the achievement that we have in the qigong path are not brought into life, there's no point. It's not qigong. Qigong is not qigong. It's the attracting thing. It's the one you can show to people to prove that you're not talking about energy like many people do. But it's not qigong. You get to know yourself more, you get to know life more, and you get to experience more, not just the limited self-identity that you have. What I said to John, I think, on the first days when I was picking up at the airport was that in other system I found, like the Buddhism that I was following, right? For me, maybe for other people it's already enough, but I realized that intellectually certain things could be grasped. And not just intellectually, even a little bit experientially. I had some moment, some breakthrough where I notice I'm operating in a different way. It's not the usual chaos. There is clarity. I'm in the middle of the crowd, but I don't give a fuck about where I am or what I'm doing. While before, in another condition, a human being surrounded by people is kind of clumsy, that's the word. Clumsy and paying attention whether I'm speaking like that. So there were profound teaching, like the Wheel of Life, was very helpful for me. But qigong was the real, in my case, the thing that made me understand that that kind of lack of point of reference could be experienced also energetically. So when the sensations and inside, outside vanish, and there is emerging energetically with a bigger field. And that for me was like, this is the 360 way of going on this. Because that one was a kind of more, let's say, in a mental and a bit of emotional state, because of course, if you understand certain things about your functioning, also you are more detached towards perception, life, which doesn't mean that you don't enjoy, you don't live it, but your emotions will be more pleasant because you're not complicating your life. Your mind is not working against you, like some people say. There's no much mind problems happening. There's life things happening, no, but no overloaded by your mind problem. So your emotions could be more pleasant, right? Because emotions are generated by thinking, right?
Yeah.
We get into this. And then action are consequences of emotions somehow, right? Emotions is the drive. With the energetic practice, there was a possibility also to merge energetically and die and dissolve into that experience, which is one of the most beautiful things I think that we can, I believe, I don't know, maybe there are many other things that we can experience, which is a practical connection of what you can call, whatever you want to call it, and it becomes part of your daily life, which is the most practical and beautiful thing that can happen. I don't need to read a book. I can just sit and be quiet and have an experience which is beyond what I was experiencing when I was 20 years old and going around and making a mess out of my life, for instance. And that is for me the purpose, which is invisible compared to the show that we put it on the web and and everything.
Yeah, I think what you see on the web is because people in the beginning they need to see, but the more you progress, the more you realize. I mean,
Not everybody.
not everybody.
No, everybody. It requires a certain maturity. Maturity means personal traits of being in a certain way. There are people who are here just for doing whatever show they want. And they will soon realize that when they get there, they will not be satisfied. They want to do something else. They want to do an extra sensorial experience, power. I want to have that one as well. And they end up like demons, always with thirst of something, but never coming to a conclusion that no, this thing is not good, and doesn't bring any improvement in my 24 hours day. 1 minute day, yeah, I can do amazing stuff, but then, what? At the end of the day, we all want to live a pleasant life, no? At least, this is when we enjoy really life.
Yes, I think what is important is not the minute you do the thing, is the 23 hours and 59 minutes.
Of course.
But it's true. I mean, my experience now is like what you say. Your mind starts working less against you. It's kind of slowly. It's kind of you're like going in. You're like on the same, getting on the same. Like you're on the, how to say, driving in the same direction sometimes.
He becomes a servant.
Yes, rather than.
He becomes, because the mind has a role. As long as we are alive, we think, right? At least thinking happens because we are alive. If you use the mind to bring things into manifestation, so to speak, because life requires a certain physicality and a certain process sometimes, even if you want to be successful in a business, whatever, or you have to do certain steps, right? But at least before you know whether you want to go in the direction. So the choice is not based on the chaotic confusion, conditioning, social conditioning, family conditioning, personal conditioning. The choice is based on I feel to do that thing. And then you use your mind to make it happen in a most efficient way. Because there is a practicality happen. At the beginning you need to train yourself with all the postures. After you finish, you might take a little bit of one, a little bit of the other according to what it does, but you go naturally about it. Do you see what I mean?
It's about integrating it, and also there is a question also of flow in the thing that you are doing, and in the integration that you do in your daily life. So everything kind of flows.
In reality, the less you are focused on the goal, the more effortless you move towards that goal. I don't know if you have experienced it in life, this yourself already, when you try to go in one direction, many difficulties, maybe the timing wasn't there, wasn't right. Maybe you just flow naturally and you end up accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish before, and you don't give importance anymore to it. Before you gave too much importance to it, and there was resistance. Then you kind of relax, and somehow you get to the next result, But you see it as okay.
Yeah. I was trying to sell my flat, and
You were trying what?
to sell my flat,
To sell your flat.
and I was really, doing everything and taking action, and then I started having problems with some documents and some permit, and that you have to, because when you sell it, you have to give all these documents, and then the sellers were making problems, and I had this kind of proactive stance, and I was getting really stressed, and at some point I thought, okay, it's just do the things, take the actions, because you're in real life, but just detach yourself from the outcome,
Yeah.
and it got sorted. I mean, somehow down the line, the things got sorted. It took the time that it had to take, but then it's everything. But what I experienced that when you are actually
No. When we try to control life, doesn't work. I mean, life becomes a pain.
it's
And
an
then-
illusion that you have a control over.
It's an illusion. But even it's well, if we want to go even to the next floor above, it's even an illusion that you're trying. It's even an illusion that we don't know why we carry life in a certain way. We don't know why I persist, I doesn't. We don't know why. It's the tendencies, right? So free will, it's a bit of a weird concept. Sometimes at the beginning, it's something that you say to people, make a change, believe in it. They go for it, they start to make a change. But when the person becomes strong enough, you can understand that even your thoughts, you cannot decide what to think, they just appear. Do you agree on this? You can see them and you can choose which one to follow. But even the fact that you choose, how do you choose? It's just one activity winning over this flow competition. So even the idea of freedom in our life, it's a bit of a weird thing. I don't think fully exists. I think it's half and half, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because, why do I have these thoughts? Why I like smoking or not smoking? How does it happen? Who decides? It's just one thought that is winning the competition on the other. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
No?
Yes. We don't really know.
We don't know. But at the same time, there is a part that we try to play to put the things in the right position and shape so that we have a certain outcome. But I think we could learn to watch life as an unfolding process, even putting ourselves in it. Even my voice, even my thoughts, even my body, seeing them as an object of perception rather than the subject of perception. Because if I think I'm the subject, the body and the mind is the subject, this is here, that one is there. But if I include myself within the content of this movie that I'm watching, so to speak, my body, my mind, my speaking becomes a content of my perception, not anymore the subject. And when it becomes the content of perceptions, it means that what I say is not different from what you say. I perceive it equally, because it's just a perception taking place. It's a voice speaking, in one sense. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's you kind of
Third person.
instead of separating.
You're just watching everything from above, even yourself. At that stage, there is just one big thing happening. There are no two things. There is just one big thing
There's no
happening.
separation.
No. And of course, I don't know how much I can convey this to you experientially, but even intellectually, we can grasp that. That if we're able to step back, there is just one big thing happening. Because there's no an idea of somebody speaking, there is speaking taking place. This is what we were talking yesterday, no? A little bit?
Yeah.
If there is no the idea of somebody thinking my thoughts, the idea of me starts to become, it's just an idea. And do you
So you
see?
live more freely, with less stress about
You go yourself out of the way. But are you able to sustain this even with your wife? Are you able to sustain this even with your children? Are you able to sustain this with people you see every day? They try to define you, and you define them. Difficult. That's why it's easier to be on your own, in one sense. No? But it's about remembering also. Because if you found the time to discover this and remember a little bit what it is, then it's there. So it's like, you see, the experience of actually being totally with the flow of life, we all have it at some point. Whether it could be while we are swimming for a few seconds, whether it is bungee jumping, there is a moment when you just, you are fully 100% there, okay? But the intellectual understanding, it comes and goes. It's stable. The experience it is stable. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
But the understanding of it, no, you can remember it all the time. So in the moments when you are confused, you can remember it, or you're mixing yourself up with, and which in practical terms might be just stepping back for a second, just watching the whole thing and watching that you are reacting to life and reacting to things like you are a separate individual who's going to have some benefit or is a victim of the situation. But in reality, there is just one big thing happening. Sometimes life goes your way, sometimes his way, sometimes everybody goes through pain for 1 year, like this year, many people physical pain that I know. Okay, it's just life moving in this direction. You cannot be free from the destiny of life. You can say this, but you can be free from the perception that you have of it. Do you understand what I say? No? Things might happen because of X reason, because the seeds are there to things to happen. But the way that I perceive them, it's my choice. And the only way to be free of it is by not identifying with them, which is something that we have heard all the time. What does it mean?
Well, what you say is basically, rather than just thinking about that these thoughts are yours and that you basically...
Put them on the screen.
I put myself in the third person here, and they're no longer mine, they're just part of the...
They're just part of the equation that is taking place here.
Is here. So it's kind of, you separate yourself a little bit.
You don't mix yourself up with the content of perception. Internal and external, if you want to call it like this.
So you kind of, it's again attachment.
You die.
Yeah.
You die. Something that the mind doesn't want to do. Because it means not existing in one sense. It's not like that, but it is seen a little bit like that at the beginning. It's a scary process at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a scary process because you don't know who you are. You don't come up with the same ideas all the time. You don't even know what you said at a certain stage. It doesn't mean that you say a bunch of stupid stuff. It's the opposite. You're just natural about it. So you don't care. And things happen naturally. You don't want to impress anybody. You don't want to be better than anybody, worse than anybody. You just, I don't know. Right now we are here. This is what it is taking place. If we manage to take this understanding into the practice, the energy practice is going to become super fast and super powerful. Because this state that we can call meditation, a little bit, this absence of reference point, we can call it meditation, this. Not the mantra, the visualization. That is not meditation, that is a tool. Meditation is when this absence of reference point comes to an end, or it's quite broken, the membrane, let's say. If we can practice in such a state, it's the perfect state to experience vital energy, to go deeper into it, to become aware of it, to move it. And to open yourself up to other perceptions which are more subtle at the beginning. But when I go in this direction, the mystical people will start to feel the power of new perception, the power of new experience. Don't sit in that way. Because it's wrong to sit in that way. You're not special. You're just removing the roof from the car and you just have the sky above rather than being closed down like this.
It's the same of everyone.
It's the same car.
Everybody has a roof.
Everybody has a roof.
You're not special. Like,
Yeah.
You just took it out to see. And
Yeah.
even that, Because the ego then comes back. if you think you're like special.
The ego comes back all the time because even the idea of the future and the planning is a very predominant thing. And the fears of economical fear and family fears and everything comes back constantly. That's why it really requires strength to live, especially in these times, because outside things are quite messed up. When you said before, when I met somebody, maybe I realized a state that I was in years ago. No? But when you look carefully, you realize actually that human beings we are actually schizophrenic. Because it's just this flow of thoughts coming of different direction and acting in a very confused and a very not careful way of doing things. So you realize that basically most people will live like this. And you will not be understood by other people. So don't even try to talk about thoughts and thinking. They will not understand. The right moment will come and you will sit and maybe you talk a little bit if it is your experience. Because if you start to read books, report books, your words will not have weight. If I start to repeat something, I don't know, from a sacred book, whatever, my words will not have weight. If it comes from experience, like you tell me something coming from your experience, your words will be felt. And so there is a possibility for the other person maybe to resonate with you. If the person is interested, start to work. But the practice and the application daily, because it's not just practicing 20 minutes and then going around and it requires observation always, no? Because as long as you are alive, possibility to messing it up is right there, I think. Because the mind is moving, the perceptions are changing, so you might get messed up with it. And for as much you think you have achieved whatever it is level of freedom, always you have to be careful in the way you deal with life. You have to be precise and careful, because this is the reason why certain gurus or certain spiritual leaders, they went into scandals and sexual things and crazy stuff, because at a certain point where you are totally in the flow, the good and bad, they go away, the meaning. They go away because at the end of the day it's something that we attribute to it. And somebody outside from the planet doesn't even know if doing a certain thing is good or bad. So always I think we have to pay attention to the way we deal with others. And that would be the best way to create actually our happiness and our stability. Because if I don't harm people, if I'm honest, if I think about them, if I care for them, all those feelings will be also here inside. Which means my life will be more pleasant, more open, less conflicts inside. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you get angry and people think that the other person is going to suffer, you suffer when you're angry. So it's better not to get angry. But for yourself, although you're right, it's better to lose.
Because I was getting angry. So there was somebody who was getting me really angry. And then I thought, Julian, you're the only one who's like pissed off and not feeling well. He might not even know about it, or he doesn't even care. And you're there like an idiot at home, feeling bad, and
yeah.
And then I thought, okay, just let it go. Just let it go, and whatever, because at the end you're just self-harming yourself. And you kind of liberate yourself once you understand that.
Totally. Sometimes it's harder to do it with family.
Yeah. Well, it was my father's now ex-wife.
It's harder to do it with family sometimes.
So it's a little bit...
because there is more emotional involvement, and there are guilty kind of patterns coming into play. I remember years ago when I came to the conclusion, I said, listen, don't throw me anything else. I'm not going to get all this rubbish. This is your stuff. I'm not guilty for anything of this. Which could be something quite painful to put on the table, but at some point we are all confused here, you know. So sometimes we have to clarify things to each other. Okay.